Welcome back. You're watching Gravitas. Making military hardware in India is not easy. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley is now mulling incentivizing foreign companies so they find it worthwhile to transfer technology and make in India. Here's a report.
The impressive parade of arms and equipment on every Republic Day in Delhi also advertises an unpalatable fact. Much of the hardware on show has been developed elsewhere and sold to India. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley is now talking of incentives so foreign arms majors can come and make in India. He said, and I quote, "Government is the only buyer and therefore people will establish units only if there is a likelihood of they getting business, and therefore our policies have to be tuned to this reality," unquote. His comments suggest that current FDI norms allowing foreign majors 49% stake if they set up manufacturing facilities have received only lukewarm response. Although the FDI rules have caveats for those setting up facilities in high technology areas, matters have not improved.
There are certain products which are domestically available and produced in the country, and there are certain products which are coming from outside because the technology is not there in the country. So we need to differentiate these two, like what you are importing and what you are producing. The import cost, I mean, the duty is about 100% plus, so the cost of goods procured almost goes double.
Jaitley was recently in Japan and the US, where India is looking to shore up defense cooperation. Progress has been mixed. Plans to make the Japanese US-2 amphibious aircraft in India have not moved forward, and Lockheed has shelved plans to build the F-16 here. But India will be building Russian Kamov helicopters. The M777 light howitzer will be maintained here. The most successful venture so far is L&T making a Korean self-propelled howitzer in India. A Korean shipyard will transfer technology to build sophisticated minesweepers in the country.
Minister of State, independent charge.
Clearly, Make in India is a hard sell unless the foreign major is confident that the project is long-term and he retains control over technology. Bureau Report, WION.
And joining us is Amit Kaushish, former financial advisor at the Ministry of Defence. Good evening, Mr. Kaushish. Is this just loud thinking from Arun Jaitley, or is this a radical move that the government is seriously considering?
Good evening. See, he was in Japan for an ADB meeting, so clearly the focus was not on defense talks. Nevertheless, whatever general comments he has made are bang on. He has said all the right things. As your report also said, he said, for example, that we need to incentivize the foreign companies. It's completely unquestionable. He also said that the foreign companies will come to India if they see the prospects of their getting business here. But what is, to me, was the most important statement he made was that he said we need to fine-tune our policies or bring our policies in sync with this ground reality. Now, this, to my mind, is the biggest takeaway from this, because it clearly indicates to me that there is a realization that there is something wrong with our policies, and we need to fine-tune them. We need to, modify them. And only time will tell what exactly he has in mind, because unless we fine-tune our policies according to our needs, things will remain the same.
So, in terms of concrete measures, the government is talking about making in India, about incentivizing. What needs to be done immediately in the short term and the long term to kickstart foreign investment into India in this sector?
I don't think foreign investment is the primary goal. I mean, the defense procurement or the needs of the armed forces cannot be driven by the consideration of getting more FDI. What is more important, MOD is primarily responsible for equipping the armed forces. So the focus has to be on procurement of the equipment required by the armed forces, or if possible, to manufacture it in India. Now, for that to happen, there has to be clarity about what we need. Secondly, there has to be faster decision making. I think there was a reference made in your report to US2. Now, this project has been, under consideration for the last 6 years. And even after 6 years, we are not very clear whether we want to buy it, we don't want to buy it, and so on. And this is not healthy. This doesn't really inspire confidence. So if we want foreign companies to come and invest in India, we need to be very quick in decision making. We need to be very clear about what we want from abroad, what kind of technologies we want, what do we want the foreign companies to come and do in India. Now, unless there is clarity about all this, as I said earlier, things will remain the same.
So you've mentioned bureaucracy and you mentioned the lack of understanding, as you said, no clarity. Do you see that changing?
No, it has to change. I mean, I can't really say whether it is changing, but it has to change. And incidentally, I didn't say lack of understanding. What I said was lack of clarity about what we want. I mean, I mentioned this US2 because that was mentioned in your report. Now, US2 is something which we have been talking about for more than 6 years. It shouldn't require 6 years to decide whether we want it or we don't want it. Now, if we are clear right in the beginning what exactly our needs are, I mean, it's not as if people don't know what the needs are. MOD does know what the needs are, but then we need to prioritize. We need to make it clear what we are going to do in a particular year or over the next 2 years or 3 years. Where do we want the foreign companies to step in? Where do we want the Indian companies to play a role, and so on? So that kind of clarity about the strategy is, to my mind, lacking, which is where I think MOD has to do a lot more.
Right, and Make in India, of course, has been one of the trademark projects of the Prime Minister. And in the defense sector in particular, how do you assess the progress?
You see, I'll dare say that Make in India in defense is not very new. I mean, like there are 5 or 6 categories of procurement. Most of that actually involve manufacturing in India, except for to some extent buy global. So when you buy something from India, it involves manufacturing in India. If you buy and make in India, it involves manufacturing in India. If you have buy and make Indian category, it involves manufacturing in India. The problem is that most of these, manufacturing in India has been through this license production mode. And secondly, most of these contracts have gone to the PSUs, that is the defense public sector undertakings. Now that has to change. And the private sector has to play a role. And for the private sector to play a role, again, there has to be clarity about policy as to how they are going to be engaged in defense production. Now, there is already a provision in the defense procurement procedure where the MOD can nominate a private sector entity as a production agency, but that has not happened. So we need to have guidelines, clarity as to when and under what circumstances MOD will nominate an entity from the private sector as the production agency. Now, once all that clarity comes about, but having said that, yeah, in the last 1.5 years or 2 years, most of the cases have been procurement cases, have been categorized under all these categories which involve manufacturing in India.
Right. Mr. Kaushik, appreciate you joining us. Thank you and for shedding light on these issues. Hopefully the government has set the ball rolling and we'll see more of this. Thanks very much. We're taking a break. Still ahead on the show, why China sees an opportunity in Trump's opposition to the Paris climate change deal.